Discovering strength in your suffering. Every single one of you seated here today, as well as those seeing from afar, have had your share of challenges, and I am aware of that. There have been times when you've been crushed. There have been days, weeks, or even years when you've questioned how much more you can handle. Life tests us in a peculiar manner. It seldom ever issues a warning. It surprises you by throwing curveballs at unexpected times. And frequently, there are more than one. It's a torrent. Hit one, hit another, hit another. It's similar to standing in a hurricane without any cover and hope it passes before it breaks you to pieces. Let me ask you, though, what should we do about that pain? When we are dealt those difficult, unjust cards in life, what do? How can we take the heartache, disappointment, and agony and make it into something strong? I want to talk about it with you today, getting strength from your pain. Potential pain. I met a man years ago whose life had fallen apart totally. His employment was gone. He was divorced from his wife. He had lost his direction. He sat beside me as a man struggling to make ends meet, not as a man seeking guidance. Instead of asking for answers, his eyes begged for hope. He told me, "I no longer know who I am." And I saw something I recognized in that instant. Not at the conclusion of his journey, but at the start of a metamorphosis, I saw someone. What he was unaware of at the time was that something strong was brewing inside his suffering. Something that may grow into the basis of a whole other kind of existence if it were cultivated. Well, only if he wanted to see it. The way you react defines you. You see, our identity is not defined by our suffering. It is our use of it. By itself, pain may just be pain. Anguish, hardship, and heartache. However, when you channel, understand, and love your sorrow, it can become your most valuable teacher, sharpest tool, and most potent motivation. You are faced with a choice when you encounter hardship. You may either allow it to mold you or shatter you. Making that choice is what separates change from defeat. Think of gold as the refining fire. At the time of its initial mining, gold is far from pure. It is released in a mixture of pollutants and rock. You don't proudly wear it like that. No, it needs to be polished. Melted. Under fire. Time and time again. Impurities are eliminated by the fire. The beauty comes from the heat. The same is true of you, my buddy. That fire, your agony, is making you better. It might not be to your taste. In the moment, you might not see the goal. But you will come out of the ashes stronger, more lucid, and more useful than before when the fires go out. It is painful, really. However, comfort seldom leads to advancement. Never forget that one time. Now recall a time in your life when you doubted your ability to survive. It may have been monetary ruin. You could have lost a loved one. It may have been a diagnosis, a relationship ending, a betrayal, or just waking up with a sense of emptiness. Are you still alive? Did you acquire any new knowledge? Were you affected by it? Because you are already stronger now than you were back then if you are still standing. People with flawless lives are not the ones that inspire us the most. It is they who have fallen hard and gotten back up. They decided not to remain down, not because they felt strong. Although pain is unavoidable, it is not wasted. We want to prevent suffering for a long period. Let's face it, though, it isn't feasible. A natural aspect of being human is experiencing pain. Regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, money, or status, it affects everyone. You have complete power over what you do next, even though you can't always control what occurs to you. It's not necessary to enjoy the suffering. You don't need to act as though it's not painful. However, you may choose not to let it defeat you. It's yours to utilize. Allow it to inspire you. Let it make clear what is important. Allow it to reveal your latent strength. The butterfly. We talk about butterflies so frequently for a reason. The metaphor is very true. In order to escape the cocoon, a butterfly must struggle. That fight is a must. The strength of its wings to fly comes from such resistance. It would never be able to fly if you helped it cut the cocoon open, make it simpler. It would suffer a lasting disability. It's the same with us. The effort, the resistance, the pain, it's all required. Avoid cursing your cocoon. Believe that it is molding you. An account of a young man. I want to share a story with you about a young man I know. He was poor from birth. There was hardly enough for his family to live on. Nobody in his neighborhood thought he would be great. The odds were stacked against them, and there was little hope. He did, however, dream. More was what he desired. Every time he attempted to go forward, life pulled him back 2 steps. They told him he would never be anything. That he ought to be content with whatever leftovers he had. However, he ignored it. He put in work. He researched. His sleep was compromised. No one else desired the jobs he accepted. And all the pain turned into gasoline. He eventually succeeded. In addition to his financial success, he developed into a man of integrity. A deep-seated guy. A man who made use of his suffering as a springboard rather than a jail. It's not where you begin, but how you finish, as demonstrated by his narrative. And how you decide to deal with your pain will determine how you end. Everyone has a story to tell. When you see someone who appears to have made it, you might believe they have never experienced hardship. But believe me, every successful someone you look up to has experienced something that almost shattered them. The viewpoint is what makes a difference, not the suffering itself. Like a river, life. Life is like a river, my friends. At times serene, at other times furious. But it keeps moving. The current has no power over you. When it floods and when it dries up is not up to you. You can learn to manage it, though. To float, you can learn. To go swimming. If you have to build a boat. However, standing still is not an option. Let life's flow take you onward. During the quiet, sure, but particularly during the storm. In pain, purpose. Let's discuss one of the most potent things you can learn, that suffering may lead to meaning. Everything changes when you can admit to yourself that there is something to learn from your suffering. A common indication that it's time to grow is pain. It's time to change. Time to change. Franklin D. Roosevelt comes to mind. At 39, he contracted polio. Unable to move. A political career almost came to an end. But he continued. He made advantage of that hurt. That restriction. That destruction and transformed it into an empathetic, powerful, and leadership force. Not despite his suffering, but because of his response to it, he rose to become one of the most significant presidents in history. His personal sorrow became a source of motivation for the country. In your own manner, you can accomplish it as well. My personal tipping point. I will tell you the truth. I have also been there. Everything seemed to be falling apart at one point in my life. I was laid off. My health was deteriorating. I was unable to breathe because of how firmly depression had gripped me. I placed the blame on everyone and everything. I was upset. I felt deceived. After that, though, I had to decide. Shall I remain here? Broken, resentful, or defeated? Or do I get up? I began modestly. Quite little. I prepared my bed. I went for a stroll. I read a book. I submitted employment applications. And I got out, one little bit at a time. It wasn't quick. It wasn't simple. However, I can see that my greatest suffering led to my greatest development. I wouldn't have discovered my light without that darkness. You may not be the only one feeling pain. Another thing to think about is that sometimes the suffering we go through isn't for us alone. At times, it equips us to assist others. To go back in time and help someone else escape the same predicament we were in. I've encountered folks who have lost loved ones and have used their grief to create charities, raise awareness, and provide consolation to others. I've met people in recovery from addiction who now assist others in achieving sobriety. Survivors who communicate with others who remain confined. Who knows who could be in need of your story? Thus, don't cover up your wounds. Show them. Let them serve as evidence that recovery is achievable. The change in attitude. The conclusion drawn from what I've mentioned so far is that mindset is crucial. Your anguish will immobilize you if you interpret it as punishment. You will feel more empowered if you recognize your suffering as a teacher. Regaining control is the goal of changing your viewpoint, not denial. Saying, "This may be difficult, but it's not the end," is the key. I am being pushed, shaped, and prepared by this anguish. When you start to view adversity as a springboard instead of a roadblock, your life starts to transform. Conclusions. I'll ask you again, then. How are you handling your discomfort? Are you being held back by it? Or do you intend to rise with it? Your suffering has the power to either define or improve you. You have the option to be better or to remain resentful. We're still working on your tale. Now don't stop. Because you could have your greatest strength on the opposite side of your greatest agony. It's also possible that someone you haven't yet met is out there, waiting for the insight your journey will provide. Get up, then. Change it. And discover your strength where you believed it had vanished. Thank you.